Have you ever stopped to think that actually winning your wife back means seeing her, yourself, and your story together in a completely different way? Such as the real reason why she's pulling away, why she stopped wanting to sleep with you, and what you actually have to do to attract her and win her back. And by the way, it's not using no contact. It's not quick fix by solving the problems. And it's not therapy. And once you see this path forward, with a little bit of work, not only can you win your wife back, but also create the marriage and life you've always wanted. As painful as this process has been for you so far, you now know the life you don't want. Divorce, kids raised by another man, failure as a husband, and the life that awaits you, marriage, salvation, having her back in your arms again. And you also see the gap between these two futures. This is known as the burden of irreversibility, summed up in this quote: "The truth does not change according to our ability to stomach it." So, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a path to get her back by becoming the man you are meant to be. Now look, most men lead lives of quiet desperation and complacency, pausing at the top of the mountain just to see that was only the first path you were meant to take in order to live the life you were meant to live. Let's contrast the apex man, the man who consistently strives towards challenge and meaning in life. This man that I share with you on this channel is disgusted by mediocrity and the status quo. And the sad thing is that only 1% of men reach this higher echelon. I'm gonna lay out the 3 stages all men must go through to ascend up this ladder of growth to become the apex man, the man that your wife admires, that opens up to, just sees as divine in her eyes. Because once you unlock divine masculinity, it inevitably draws her back toward you again. So let's talk about the first stage, called the dip. Now, one of the first ways I started to help men online was actually through helping men quit porn. And a lot of these men, they would go on these streaks and they would count the days of how many days sober they would be. This is much like anyone who goes through an addiction, right? You want to count the days that you're sober. Well, what would happen here that caused a lot of permanent failure is that a lot of these men would go on these journeys, right? They would hit the 30-day mark, right? They'd feel good about themselves. They'd get up to 60, and eventually the highest one, people, for some reason, they said if once they get past 120 days that they thought they were completely porn free. There was one client I was working with, and he went 90 days. He hit his highest streak. Then it went 91, 92. He was feeling elated, confident, like, oh my gosh, my skin's getting clearer. I'm confident with women. I have more energy. I'm sleeping better. All these things. And all of a sudden, he said, Josh, I relapsed. I got drunk. My ex texted me, and she said she found someone else, and I relapsed. He says, I'm back to square one. And I said, no, you're not. You see, a lot of men, when they're climbing this mountain, when they're trying to get their wife back, any form of success, they're climbing up this thing. Now look, how you achieve success is really important, but what's equally as important is how you deal with the setbacks. And no one talks about that. He thought when he fell all the way back down to square one at the bottom of the mountain. I said, no, you fell down where you were at. It is a dip. And after helping men with porn addiction for years, helping thousands of men quit porn before I went into helping men save their marriages, I found that success actually looks like this. When you start going through the stages of winning your wife back, a lot of guys think in their process to win their wife back, it's gonna look like that. Just over time, they're gonna slowly get better. I wish success was like that, but if you look at anywhere, success looks a lot like this, right? You have some wins with your wife, you start changing who you are. She's like opening up to you, she's texting you more, and then all of a sudden she gives you the divorce papers and you feel defeated. But then you keep on fighting, you're like, no, they're just papers. You watch my video, you see some testimonies, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna keep the belief. She starts seeing more of your changes. You guys have sex, you're like, oh my gosh, oh, it's brilliant. Then 2 days later, you find out she's been talking to someone else. Oh my gosh, you're back down to the bottom. But really, you recognize that she's actually doesn't like that guy. He's just a temporary relief, and you change your beliefs around that. You recognize what tests are, and you go back all the way to the top. The point I'm trying to make is that a lot of guys that seem like they're at the point of failure with their wife, and they feel like there's no hope. I get comments like this all the time. Is there hope? My situation is this. Is there hope? You determine that. You determine that. I've been playing with this idea with a lot of guys recently on my live yesterday. If you didn't check it out, make sure you're notified, subscribe so you can see the next live. I do Q&A there. But I've been playing with the idea of that. What if your main purpose is not love and connection on this planet? What if the main reason you were here is to become a certain man, and you can only become that man by being challenged, by being put through difficult times to develop who you are? You see, you have these talents and gifts, and being complacent over the years, you haven't been utilizing them. You haven't been at your full potential. You've been floating around, just kind of going through life's ups and downs a little bit, but kind of just like this, right? Sometimes God breaks you down to build a palace within you, What feels like destruction is often the foundation for something far greater. So the way you deal with this rejection, the way you see the purpose and meaning for why she's doing this, why your life's falling apart, is gonna bring about two paths only. One is seeing the meaning behind it, and that is a good thing for you to develop, and that brings you back to her again. Or you can feel hopeless, want to give up, and then you're gonna learn the same lesson in the next relationship. And each step you take up that mountain is a new action. Right now, all you need to know to get out of this dip and start ascending to the next level, the next stage with her, is to stop blaming anything outside of yourself for why you are where you are, and then to do something new. Those are the two for surefire ways to lose her for good and fail as a husband. Now, if you are a man that wants to do something different, that's what this next principle is going to guide you toward. It's going to show you the journey ahead that you can take, that every man has taken that has saved his marriage. There's another video that I did on the hero's journey that you can check out at the end of this video, but essentially every man goes through multiple journeys in his life. You don't know this. It's a subconscious process, and it's cross-cultural, across time, cross-temporal, if you will. And it's crazy because even in our biggest stories and myths like Star Wars and Harry Potter and so many other cinema and media, they follow the same exact journey with all these phases, and you are going through this now with your wife. The hero always goes through a dip, and in that dip, that pain, that trauma, there's a call to adventure. Now, you can choose to answer the call, to become a better man, to go through these trials and tribulations, internally fight these demons and dragons, and come out the other side with gifts, become transformed into a better version of yourself. Or you can choose to refuse the call, which oftentimes a hero does it first. But in this second stage, if you say, I want to do something different, I'm tired of going through the status quo, and I take responsibility that it is, you are the hero of your journey, okay, of your story. And when you take full ownership and authorship over that, it releases you into this endless, motivated state. On this hero's journey with your wife, you can even see that there's the gift of the goddess at the return. And I believe, and I know, and I've seen, when you go through these phases, you get the feminine, you get your wife back. And across the thousands and thousands of marriages, and speaking with women and experts on this from around the world, I would say there are 4 core needs that women have in a relationship. And when you are in negative sentiment, which a lot of you are, which is she sees you as the villain, she's moved out, she's having no contact or whatever it is, there's just a cold wall in front of her. The core need she has here that she's not getting met is emotional safety. No matter what attraction tactic or words I use with you, or even the correct masculinity, at the end of the day, if she doesn't feel safe, if her nervous system feels dysregulated, you are a threat to her. So you must learn how to make her feel safe through proper guidance. And I'll tell you about the habits, all the 4 habits for these 4 needs in the next point. Once you give her emotional safety, the next need you need to meet or give her is understanding, validation. A lot of men will screw up because they don't know how to communicate with their wife when it comes to conflict specifically. One example of this is using logic instead of understanding her emotions. And it's just the way our brains are wired differently, right? But when you could speak her hidden language, understand that understanding is what allows her to literally connect with you emotionally and then thus physically, her wanting to be around you again. Oftentimes when men go to stage 3, which is the majority of you, there's this dual mind narrative of her going back and forth. The need she has, which is controversial, is for submission. Now I know a lot of you are saying, my wife is a stubborn woman, man. Let me tell you what, she's a masculine, she's goes to her masculine, right? But look, every woman wants to submit. I will debate that to the end of the days. Point is, if she won't submit to you, she will submit to someone else. She will submit to her drama TV shows. She will submit towards something. She wants to go into her feminine. So if you're not providing her that gift, she'll find it somewhere else. And the last is the need for love. And we'll talk about that one a lot in the next point. Let's jump in. On the YouTube live yesterday, I talked about the roots versus branches. Now that you know her core 4 needs, right? These are the roots. You need to know how to address them now. Because once you can address these 4 core needs, you are that perfect man for her. She will do anything to be with you. She won't even think or spend any energy or attention on anyone else. Let's talk about how to address the first core need of emotional safety. Now, the best way to make her feel emotionally safe is through the use of extreme ownership. I just got off a call with one of our guys in the program, and I was speaking with him, and he dealt with addiction for many years in the marriage early on. He was in a dark place, went through a lot of trauma that I'm not going to even say here how dark it was. And even when I asked him about the trauma, he didn't even want to say it because he didn't want to give it any power. I'm like, man, this guy takes full ownership. He's like, Josh, it's all me. I totally understand why she has been so pulled away from me, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove to her that I have changed, that I can make her feel safe, because he recognized by putting her through that chaos, and he was drinking and drugs, and he said being a POS himself, that's his words, not mine. He's like, she deserves to have me at my best for a full another year minimum before she can feel safe with me. And the thing is, because he feels that way, she's opening up to him again. he is regulating her nervous system. You see, when you've hurt her in the past, as a stimulus, as when she sees you, she thinks of just pain. She feels insecure. And recognizing that and owning it is what allows you to let her feel safe. When you fully own what you did, it shows to her nervous system and her subconscious brain that you're less likely to do it because you show empathy to how your actions actually affected her. And that's why when you defend yourself every time she brings up the past, she's like, he doesn't get it. He's going to do it again. Even if you know you're not, she feels that way. The second core need of meeting her understanding, giving her that understanding, the core action you use to give that is called attunement. Now, attunement is the idea that when I have a conversation with you, if you were to speak to me one-on-one, which by the way, you can speak to one of our marriage evaluators one-on-one, and you can absolutely get help for your marriage. All you gotta do is click the link down below, set up a call, fill out the application, and make sure you're fully committed. But the best skill that all therapists have, I can back a study with this, but they have attunement. This is the ability to be mindful and present. So right now, I am in the flow state. I am just talking to you off script. There's no words here. I know what attunement is. I'm not thinking in my head like, oh, what do I say? How do I convey this to them? Is it gonna be the right thing? And you can feel my presence, that I am connected to you. I'm looking at this camera right now, but I'm connected to you. And so when you're in a conversation with your wife and you're in your head thinking of what to say, well, how's she thinking about me? How do I get her to feel better? Like, what can I say to get her to open up? You are searching, you are being needy, you are trying to get her out of the moment. You are not accepting her the way she is. And when you just lean into just being present with her, looking at her in the eye, and just, if you want to think something, think of how beautiful she is, even if she's angry at you, how much you appreciate her, how much gratitude you have for her, how much you love her. And you just look at her and you let her vent and say what she has to say. Now, you can use the skills of communication that we teach here and the words that we could say, but at the end of the day, those words are meaningless if you lack the attunement. That is the foundation. Being present with her, not being distracted, being conscious. And then she will feel so understood by you. Once you meet her emotional safety, then she feels understood in communication. Now you can lead her towards more attraction and physical connection and intimacy. So with her need of submission, which is controversial in some domains, but women do want to submit to a dominant, loving man. What she needs from you is leadership. I know I'm referring to this previous call I did live, but I was on a group call the other day and we were talking to the men about leadership and what that means. And a part of that is purpose. The common flaw here is that a lot of men have become complacent. They just kind of went with the status quo. They didn't push themselves. They didn't go towards fear or uncomfortability because your brain doesn't want to. Once you achieve homeostasis, which is like you feel safe, you feel good in your environment, why grow? Why force yourself to change? Why do that? Like, why not just relax? And the reason why is because if you are not growing, you are dying. As a man, you are growing, learning, going towards fear, developing until the day you are in that grave. You understand me? She needs that from you. She needs to know that you are becoming a better man. You see, when you admire yourself, when you are setting goals and achieving them, going towards fear, doing things that are difficult, she looks up to you. She knows you can provide and protect. Even if you've been providing for her financially, that doesn't matter to her that much. What matters is that you are this guy that's on this path, that has this drive in him. And look, recently I lost that drive last year when I was in Seattle. I got pretty depressed in Seattle. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was in a dark place. I was isolated just with my partner and it was just us two. And I see the irony in this because a lot of men do this, right? But I recognized it. And as painful as it was, we got rooted from there. Again, I moved within a year because my mental health is number one and being driven by this purpose to help you. So for you, it could be your career. But what is that thing that drives you forward, that lights a fire under your ass, that makes you feel like you just get up every day and you can do this for the rest of your life? You pick something that's going to serve other people and you make it a goal so big that it cannot be achieved in your life, because once you have that goal that's greater than her, she will feel led by you and she will want to submit because she can relax in your presence. Her need for love, this might be, again, controversial or even cliche, but in order to meet her need for love, you must have love for yourself. Look, a lot of men, you've given pieces of yourself away at times, haven't you? You sacrificed hobbies, friends, time to the gym, little things that are who you are to the core because you wanted to make her happy. You fell apart when she's not. You become intertwined and codependent. And the thing is that she's supposed to test you and push you off of that because that's the only way in the masculine that you will grow around that. And a lot of men, we all share the common flaw here, which is that core wound of not feeling good enough, right? And ultimately there's this concept, this analogy that I've been playing with. I was speaking with a firefighter in our program and I was telling him about the idea of these like core wounds and these like old softwares and limiting beliefs we have from childhood. He goes, Josh, that's a lot like reading the smoke. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, when I go into a burning building, I can't honestly immediately assess where the fire is a lot of times. It's just a full room of smoke. So we're taught how to read smoke patterns to go to the source of the fire. Otherwise, we will go into the wrong place and we'll get suffocated, we'll get lost, and people die. And it's like, you need to learn how to read the smoke of your own mind. There are these beliefs, this incorrect mindset, this way of being that you developed that kept you alive in this original environment through trauma, right, or how your parents were. But now it's causing a source of pain. And the thing is that most men cannot find this out on their own. And the best way to uncover that is to seek support around that and to see someone who has seen these patterns thousands of times and can immediately pull that out. I can't tell you how many times I was with a mentor or a coach and I was bringing up a problem and they, within a second, they're like, it's because of this, And that's why our marriage evaluators are so powerful, and they talk to thousands of men and they can see the patterns that you have and the source of that fire. And once you can be able to see where it's coming from, then you can choose to blow it out and it'll no longer burn you in your relationship. And that's what I want for you. Check out this video on how to save a marriage solo by yourself. I really highly recommend it. It has a lot of good stories in there, and I'll see you in the next one.